So what is standardized testing? A standardized test is any form of a test. 1 requires all test takers to answer the questions, or a selection of questions from a common bank of questions in the same way, and that 2 is second in a standard or consistent manner, which makes it possible to compare the relative performance of individual students or a group of students. The following are standardized testing examples from Indiana. This includes the I-STEP, iRead 3, ECA, PSAT, ACT, and the SAT. A survey was given to teachers and the results are following. 72% of teachers felt the pressure either moderate or extreme from the administration. 42% of the surveyed teachers reported that the emphasis on improving standardized test scores had a negative impact on their classroom, while only 15% said the impact was positive. 52% of teachers surveyed said they spend too much time on testing and test prep. The average teacher now reports spending about 30% of their work time in testing-related tasks, including preparing students, proctoring, and reviewing the results of standardized tests.
Some teachers also feel pressured by these tests because they are being watched closely to see if they're doing good as teachers based on these tests. Teachers from low-score schools also see tests as limiting students from showing creativity. They see it as having to do drill and practice lessons to prepare students, which leaves little time for fun activities.
So what happens to the teachers if they don't meet these standards? They will be labeled as ineffective. They can go on teaching probation. In worst possible cases, they can be fired. There's a possibility that they may have a decrease in pay, and they could have a hard time being hired by other school corporations. On the flip side, what happens to the school if they don't meet the standards? They could lose their state and government funding. They could receive sanctions. They will have to offer the students the ability to go to a different school and provide them with transportation, and the school could be taken over by a private company. So what is a teacher's evaluation based on anyways?
If teachers' careers are solely determined by the students' test scores, this may increase the likelihood that teachers will narrow their curriculum and only teach to the test. For this reason, many important concepts may be glossed over and missed because of the high demand to score well on standardized tests. Additionally, schools that base teacher evaluations on standardized test performance have been shown to give less attention to other important skills like creativity and problem solving. These types of evaluations may also cause teachers to be more likely to avoid students whose scores are harder to raise. Teachers may tend to only gravitate towards high-achieving students because they will offer them a better evaluation. Based on their students' standardized test scores, teachers may be categorized as effective or ineffective by their school corporation. Rather than basing the teacher's effectiveness on students' overall gain, teachers can be ranked based on their students' one-time test scores. Additionally, teachers that work with special needs students or students with language barriers are at risk for being falsely categorized as ineffective solely based on their students' backgrounds. Classroom teachers also build on the efforts of previous teachers. It takes a large team of teachers, guidance counselors, parents, and many others to fully affect a student's progress. If a student has a breakthrough in 4th grade, it may be largely due to the groundwork that was built in grades 1 through 3.
Here are some facts about standardized testing. Some schools allocate more than a quarter of the year's instruction to test prep. After New York City's reading and math scores plunged in 2010, many schools imposed extra measures to avoid being shut down. including daily 2.5-hour prep sessions and test practice on vacation days. On September 11, 2002, students at Monterey High School in Lubbock, Texas, were prevented from discussing the first anniversary of the 2001 terrorist attacks because they were too busy with standardized test preparation. Some schools have allotted 90 minutes of just reading to prep for iRead. Teachers in schools now have to spend more than half the school day prepping in math and science, and if they have time, they can teach other subjects, but not as in-depth. We just wanted to take a second and thank Chris Tinkin for this video that you're about to watch. We used it to wrap up our presentation.
Did you know that because of the new standardized testing programs related to the Common Core state standards, that public school students will spend more time each year being tested and less time actually learning? For example, elementary school students will spend more time taking state standardized tests this year than a law school student spends taking the bar exam, and more time than the exams required to become a police officer, teacher, or school superintendent. Now, some people say we need all this testing to increase student learning and hold teachers accountable. But what do these tests really tell us about learning and quality teaching? Actually, not much. For tests to provide diagnostic information about student learning, there must be at least 20 to 25 questions for each skill in each standard being tested. None of these new tests have that many questions. To be useful for instruction, teachers and parents need the results returned quickly, and they need to be able to see the actual questions students got right and wrong. The results from these tests are not formative. They're summative, used to monitor, not educate. Also, the results won't be returned until after students finish the school year. Parents, teachers, and children will never be able to see all the questions from the tests. It's kind of like going for an annual checkup at your doctor, waiting 5 months for the results, and not being able to know which test the doctor ran on you. Standardized tests do not provide the in-depth information about teaching and learning that educators, parents, and children deserve. Worst of all, colleagues and I have been able to predict the test results using only U.S. Census data from your community. Using the results from commercially prepared standardized tests to make important decisions about educators and children is education malpractice. School and classroom-based assessments are more accurate. For example, grades and high school grade point average generally predicts college readiness and persistence through college more accurately than the SAT. Report cards and grade point average measure years of work. A standardized test measures 1 day. All the emphasis being put on the results and preparing for these tests is killing creativity in our public schools. Teachers are forced to focus on teaching to the test for fear of their job security. Kids are being denied full access to subjects that foster creativity, socially conscious problem solving, resilience, networking, and other skills necessary to compete in a 21st century economy. Testing is not teaching. Test preparation is not learning. Teachers are the ultimate instruction and assessment professionals. Their expertise can't be replaced by a score on a standardized test. Let's move away from standardized testing and toward authentic teaching. End the myopic focus on knowledge imitation and regurgitation aimed at finding one correct answer, and expand into creation and innovation with problem-based curricula and high-quality, open-ended classroom assessment. Let teachers teach. Let children learn. For more information, go to www.christinkin.com. Pick up a copy of my book, The School Reform Landscape, Fraud, Myth, and Lies. And follow me on Twitter, @ChrisTinkin. Thank you.